interested article. Then CIA Director Gina Haspel said Trump's post-election behavior was insanity, and he was acting out like a 6-year-old with a with a tantrum. Book says. So, this lady, she worked in CIA for a number of years, and Trump picked her. He picked her to be CIA director, first woman CIA director, and CIA CIA people are able to assess others, and she was able to assess him as a 6-year-old with a tantrum. Isn't that something? So Haspel said Trump was acting out like a 6-year-old after the 2020 election. A new book says we're on the way to a right-wing coup. The whole thing is insanity, Haspel said. The book adds. Haspel was particularly unnerved by Trump's firing of Defense Secretary Mark Esper, the book says. Then CIA Director Gina Haspel told the U.S.'s top general that former President Donald Trump was acting out like a 6-year-old with a tantrum in the wake of the 2020 election, according to a new book. You know, it's amazing that she could see this. She being a top CIA official, but the people who support Trump can't really see that he's like a big toddler who needs a pacifier. Isn't that amazing? That about 70% of Republicans think that he should lead the Republican Party. Isn't something wrong with these people? I mean, really, something is wrong, really, mentally, with these Republicans who believe that Trump should lead the Republican Party, and the CIA director, or former director, I should say, she was able to see right through him. And when you work for the CIA, you have information and people that others can't come by, like Hoover, who was FBI director. I remember when I was teenager. I remember Hoover, and I remember reading that Nixon wanted to fire Hoover, but he couldn't. Ever since then, the CIA director gets like a 10-year contract, except when Trump fired the last FBI director, Coney. Yeah, Coney was the name. But that's kind of unusual, except if there's a legitimate reason. But other than that, the CIA director usually stays in place. I mean, the FBI director usually stays in place for 10 years. So the thing about Hoover is that Hoover had a lot of stuff on Nixon, being that he was FBI director. So he told Nixon, "You can't fire me, even if you want to," which is interesting. He's telling the president of the United States that you can't fire me, even if you want to. You can't fire me, and he was right because Hoover, running the FBI, he was like the first man there, and it was like his department, and he knows a lot of stuff. The kinds of powers that the FBI has for investigation purposes or what have you. So he had a lot of stuff for Nixon. So Nixon couldn't fire Hoover, J. Edgar Hoover. See, and then I think eventually Hoover died. But so then Congress put in that policy. You have that 10-year stuff. But anyway, getting back to this lady here, in addition to refusing to concede the 2020 election, to President-elect Joe Biden and pushing groundless claims of election fraud, Trump fired or tried to fire a number of top officials, most prominently Secretary of Defense Mark Esper on November 9th. Ye- Yesterday was appalling, Haspel said in a November 10th conversation with General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, according to Bob Woodward and Robert Coster's forthcoming book Peril. We are on the way to a right wing coup. The whole thing is insanity. He's acting out like a 6-year-old with a tantrum, Haspel, a 35-year veteran of the agency, said, with the orders writing that she too was afraid of being canned. Millie assured Haspel that we are going to be steady, according to the book, steady as a rock, he added. We are going to keep our eye on the horizon, keep alert to any risk dangers, keep the channels open. Peril and other books on the Trump administration released this summer appeared to give insight into the final months of Trump's term, with the president's behavior alarming many senior officials. In Peril, Woodward and Costas say Milley placed a call to his counterpart in China to tell him that the American government is stable and everything is going to be okay, and that he would warn him if the U.S. were to attack China. It's not interesting. You're going to warn China and say, yeah, we're about to attack you. One official told Politico that the conversation was grossly mischaracterized in the book, and the Pentagon has defended Milley, with the Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby recently telling reporters that it is not only common, it's expected that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff would continue to have counterpart conversations. The Wall Street Journal reporter Michael Bender says in his book, frankly, we did win this election, the inside story of how Trump lost. That then Secretary of State Mike Pompeo also expressed concerns to at least one person that Trump would enter into a foreign conflict to try and stay in office after losing the 2020 election. Trump's firing of Esper not only unnerved Haspel, but also alienated another top advisor, David Urban, who told the president's son-in-law and senior advisor, Jared Kushner, that it was a dick move that made Trump look out of control. Bender's book says. The book also says both Pompeo and Milley feared that the new officials brought into the Defense Department and White House after the 2020 election were conspiracy theorists and would even have links to neo-Nazi groups. Well, I'll tell you, this is an interesting article. When the CIA director, and usually the CIA, they don't really get into dealings with domestic stuff, you know. They deal with foreign stuff. But the difference is these people took an oath to the Constitution of the United States. This is not like in Germany, you know, where people say hi Hitler. They take an oath to Hitler. You see, every time they see, you didn't even have to see him. Every time you meet somebody, a fellow person, you have to raise your arm and say hi Hitler. You see, because your oath is to Hitler, and I think with Trump cares nothing about the United States Constitution. That doesn't mean anything to him. That's just a piece of paper, you know, and a piece of paper that's in the Smithsonian. and it's meaningless to him. And from reading and seeing what went on and all the lawsuits he filed, he tried everything to get around the United States Constitution. But I have to say one thing: those men who wrote the Constitution many years ago, they were really, really smart, because it's not that easy to just change this Constitution. You see, like in Russia, for example, like how Putin could was able to change, with with members of his party in the Politburo, that he could extend his term and all this nonsense. It's like, you know, it's like he's gonna be like president of Russia. I don't know, for life it seems. You know, I don't know who's gonna die first, he or me. One of us gonna die first, and probably I will before Putin dies. So I probably die and leave him, and he still be in office the day I die, more than likely. But that's not how the United States is. In order to change things around, you have to amend the Constitution. It's not that easy to amend the Constitution. You need like 2/3, of the states, and then you have to go through. You have to go through the Congress. So it's a very, very difficult procedure. And you look around the world, and you see all this nonsense going on. Same thing happened in Haiti. That's why the president of Haiti got killed not that long ago, this summer, because he decided to stay in office longer than he should. In some African countries, you see the same nonsense. People amending, changing the Constitution. A Constitution shouldn't be that easy to change. So, luckily for us here in the United States, we have something good going for us. we we have a constitution that you just can't change like that. Okay? No matter what. And Trump tried to get around the Constitution. And to me, I don't understand. I mean, any patriotic American who really cares about this country could never really care about Trump, because anybody can see through Trump that Trump, he sees himself as like some kind of a despot, some kind of a person who believes that power is imbued into him, and that he has some, I don't know, maybe something divine that he should be able to stay in office. And because he lost, he made up this lie about, well, you know, the election was stolen. But then again, if you go back to some of the audio on videotape, he was saying the election. He was saying that if he lost the election, it would be stolen. He was saying that long, long before. So it wasn't like something new. He was saying, this election would be stolen if I lost. If I win is a different story. Then I win. So that's the mantra, you see. So this is the kind of dictatorship we were heading down. And unfortunately, there are people in America who go along with this man, whether they're police officers who support him, firemen who support him. All these people, they don't give a damn about the Constitution. They just care about him for what he stands for. And what he stands for is the antipathy of what the United States is about and what the United States Constitution represents. And to him, he figured he did just about everything, filed every lawsuit, did just about everything, even have stirred people up in insurrection, that people end up going to the Capitol, breaking glass, going in there, looking to kill people, and so forth. Who would think? I would never think I would see something like that, I remember when I was in high school, We had a trip, and we went to the U.S. Capitol, and it's like, wow, what an experience. It's like an awesome experience. That there you are, you standing to see the power where the Congress makes laws and so forth. That I could never see myself doing what these people did. Going to the U.S. Capitol, breaking in, breaking glass in the middle of the night. They taking in all kinds of different weapons and saying that you're here and asking for the House Speaker. Oh, Nancy, Nancy, where are you, Nancy? That kind of stuff. I mean, it's like you're dreaming. You can't believe this is how in the United States of America. It's like some kind of banana republic. You expect this kind of stuff. And then you have people supposedly going to be coming out to say to protect the rights of these people who were in the Capitol, who were arrested, and saying these were no, these were not patriotic people. These were criminals. That's what they were, criminals. And they deserve to be arrested, and they deserve to be doing time. And they should be doing time in federal prison. That's where they should be, you know. And the person who should really be doing time is Donald Trump, because if anybody else said and did what he did, they would be arrested a long time ago. The FBI would have arrested that person. You look at some countries around the world, right? Countries like, let's say, South Korea. Remember, South Korea had a woman president not that long ago, and she was removed from office. Yeah, she was charged with some kind of corruption. I mean, nothing on the scale of what Donald Trump was been involved in. I think somebody contributed some kind of money or something like that. Or give. I don't even think the money was for her, or something like that. And because of that, she was impeached. Then the court took it up and ruled it. Next thing you know, she was in handcuffs. Yeah, it was the former president of South Korea in handcuffs. you know, so the guy up in the north, in North Korea, Kim Jong, I'm sure he was looking at it and said, "Look at that, you president one day and you're in handcuffs the next, because you know why? Because that country is a country of laws. It's the rule of law, like we're supposed to have here in the United States, right? France, Sarkozy, remember Sarkozy? Sarkozy was president before the last one here, before this guy, this president. Sarkozy was tried, convicted for corruption. Yeah, prison time. Then there was Jacques Chirac. Jacques Chirac used to be mayor of Paris. He was also president of France. I remember him because I've been to France, and I remember when I've been to France, he was president at the time when I went to France. Going back to the 1990s. And he was convicted, okay? He was brought into court, and Jacques Chirac was convicted for corruption. So the United States is one of the few countries in the world where we have the rule of law, and we can't seem to apply the same standards. We believe, it's not good for our image to be locking up former presidents or what have you. It's for some reason we put them on a pedestal. And Trump, he takes advantage of that. Instead of saying, you know what, I got a break, because the stuff I'm doing, it's really crazy. Anybody else pulling this stuff would be in prison. No. Instead, he gets worse. Not only that, instead he supposedly he's planning to run. He's planning to run again for president. He doesn't realize all the stuff he did. Two different impeachments and so forth. And the only reason he got off is not. You listen to some of the senators that said, well, it didn't really rise to that level or so forth. Or in the second impeachment, it's like, well, he lost the election anyway, and that could be taken up in a criminal court. This is what Mitch McConnell said. That he said that on the floor of the Senate. He said this should be taken up as a criminal matter, right? That's not going to happen because the United States government doesn't want to go after a former president like that, and that's what's really saving this man's butt. You know, we don't want to give the image that we are like a banana republic, like this guy down in Nicaragua, who's locking up those politicians, opposition politicians, and so forth, right? So we don't want to give the impression we like Nicaragua, you know, or one of these African countries where you lock up the opposition, or even like Russia with Putin locking up opposition. The only thing Trump didn't do, I guess, was to be killing opposition people like Putin does in Russia. In Russia, Putin is good at doing that. You know, so we don't want to give that impression. But at the same time, South Korea, they don't care. They put their former president in handcuffs in prison. France, and France is no banana republic. You know, I've been to France. I see how it is. Yeah, they know banana republic. France was an old republic longer than the United States of America ever existed. You know, United States of America is only like 240 years, while France goes way back than that. They used to have a king at one time. Then they had a revolution, and the king was put under the guillotine. And I looked and I see the guillotine. They stopped using the guillotine. I think it was like 1981 or 84. That was not that long that France stopped using the guillotine. And the king, he was killed by the guillotine. That's what they were using. They cut the head off. You see. So France doesn't care. I mean, you could be king today, and you can have your head cut off tomorrow. You could be president today, and you could be convicted and then be in prison the next day. So I'm glad that the former CIA director, she speaks the truth. Trump is like a 6-year-old. and some 6-year-old are well behaved, you know? Yeah. Some 6-year-olds are very well behaved, very manly. Trump was never manly. He was never a Christian. He holds the Bible upside down. He believes in vengeance, you know. In the Bible says, vengeance is mine, says the Lord, right? That's what it says in the Bible. If you're a true Christian, you would say, you know what? I'm going to leave this to God. I'm going to let God deal with it. But instead, he goes around the country trying to run other people in primary races against other Republicans. What kind of Christian is that? You know, if you're really a Christian and you believe that somebody did you something unjustly, you're going to pray and said, I'll leave it in the hands of God. You don't go around and try to see you can do somebody in and, you know, make their life as miserable. That's not the mark of being a Christian, you know. That's not the mark of being a Christian at all. And I don't understand how he's able to fool these evangelicals who think that he's a Christian or so forth. And some of them praise him because he moved the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And to them, that proves he's a Christian. You know, like one guy I used to work with, he studied medicine and he became a doctor, and he's telling me that Trump is a Christian, that he's prophesied in the Bible, and that I guess in the Bible, the book of Revelations and so forth, and that the the idea that he can move the American embassy to Jerusalem, it shows prophecy. I said, so I kind of got angry with this guy. I mean, I know this guy a long time, but this kind of talk to tell me that Trump is prophesied in the Bible, come on. I mean, really. The Bible also warned people that there are people who will come with forked tongues. And there will be like, what they call it, like people who come like wolves, but they're in sheep's clothing. You see? They dress as a sheep, but really, they're really wolves. So if you're gonna want to read the Bible, I could read it too. Because when I was young, I remember I used to attend those revivals, and they used to have a lot of Bible reading, and I remember a lot of those lines from the Bible. You know, so anybody who wants to come and read the Bible and tell me this and tell me that, yeah, I could pull out different verses too and contradict you. The Bible has what seems like a lot of contradictions if you really get into it. But I'll tell you what, if Trump is in the Bible, then he's the devil. And that's about as much as I'm going to say about that.